When I share our family history or my genealogy research with my adult children, their eyes glaze over and it doesn't take long. But mention the fact that the great-great-grandmother had nothing to do with daylight savings time or that the family still blew up for some reason, that gets their attention. Suddenly, they're all ears. Hey there, I'm Lisa with Are You My Cousin, and this YouTube channel is designed to help you find your ancestors, grow your family tree, but not be overwhelmed in the process. So if that sounds like your cup of tea, you're in the right place. Today's video is sponsored by Storied.com, and I will be sharing a little bit more about them in just a bit. Now, like many of you, I have been researching genealogy for a lot of years. I've been growing that family tree. I've been going after the stories, trying to connect generation by generation. And sometimes, well, it can be a lonely process when your family is not quite as into it as you are. And that has definitely happened in our family. But in the past few years, as I have tried to share the family stories and to help the younger generations start to connect with their family history a bit more, I've learned a few things. And one of the biggest lessons that I have come to learn is that my adult children, who are millennials, and even my husband, really could care less about the dry facts, the dates, the places. Where I really see their interest spark is in the stories, in the family stories, whether it's one that they have heard of or if it's a story that I can uncover in my research. Then their interest is sparked and they want to know more. And then we start to see the connection between today's family, today's generation, the family stories, and the previous generations as well. So my question for you today as a researcher, whether you are just starting out on your genealogy research or whether you have been doing this for a while, is are you collecting facts or are you creating family connections? So stick with me today and let me show you why you need both when it comes to family history research. Let's talk about the research portion of growing our family tree. Now, this is really what you and I excel at. This is what we love to do. You and I can spend hours poring through old records, whether it's online, in the dusty basement of a county courthouse, and we can easily lose track of time as we're looking for clues and facts about our ancestors that we can piece together and add to that family tree. In fact, I just did that this weekend. I spent hours and hours researching on a particular family line for personal research. I was finding dates, I was finding new names, new locations, starting to weave together newspaper articles and census records, and a little bit of oral family history that I had. Now, I'm not done yet, and I can't wait to get back to it, and actually you'll probably see a bit about it in an upcoming video. But I love this stuff, and you do too. We love the thrill of the hunt, the thrill of finding the family history puzzle pieces, right? But research is going to fall short for us eventually. I can have a lot of facts. I can actually know who begat who. I can know multiple generations in a family tree. But if it stays in the family tree, if that tree stays on my laptop, there's no personal connection for family members to have and to be able to tap into for their own family history, adventures, and understanding. Now, if you're like me and you can spend hours researching in the records, whether online, dusty basement of that courthouse, be sure and hit that like button and let me know, because I'm sure I'm not the only one out there who likes to do that. Now, here's where we need the second piece of the research. In the last few years, I have really started to turn my attention to not just the facts, but the stories that those facts are telling, and trying to figure out how I can tell those stories better. We have all these facts about an ancestor and about a family. What are those facts telling us? What story is that telling us? What is it the storytelling piece of family history can provide us as researchers that straight genealogy research doesn't? It can provide that emotional connection. It provides context and meaning behind the facts. And it absolutely can provide that legacy for future generations. And for us as researchers who love those records, that story within the record helps us understand choices that our ancestors may have made, which is going to actually make our research stronger. So let's take a moment and talk about that storytelling piece as part of our genealogy research. I recently had the opportunity to sit down with my daughter, who is of the millennial generation, and talk with her a little bit about genealogy, family history, and what would interest her, what would get her interested in learning a little bit more about her family history, our genealogy, our family tree. And without missing a beat, what she told me was, Mom, I'm not that interested in the facts. They're a bit dry. I connect with the stories. I want to know the family stories. That's what interests me. That's what makes me actually feel closer to my grandmother or my great-grandmother. And I think a lot of us have stories in the family. We have a lot of memories, we have a lot of stories that we might have heard, but sometimes I think the difficult thing is actually knowing how to preserve them and organize them well. But when we don't do anything intentionally with those, then what happens is we forget. We might remember if we're asked about it, but there's no way of sharing that with the generation. And as a researcher, not only do I want to share those stories, I actually want to use those stories as part of my research. Stories are important not in just sharing what we're finding with our family members and helping them connect, but stories are going to be very important in our research going forward. When we hear a story and it's just rattling around in our brain and it never gets it out on paper, we're not going to really be able to remember and use it in future research. Perhaps we have a census record or multiple census records for an ancestor. But when we don't pull the story about what those facts are actually telling us and weave the narrative for that person's life, then we can't use those facts effectively in order to move our research forward. Having research without a story behind it means our family trees are going to get a little stale. The information that we have in those trees is not going to be very inspirational for future generations. And those facts that are in that family tree are not going to connect the generations on that family tree very well. And then, of course, on the flip side, if you have a story without the research behind it, you have a myth. So the sweet spot in family history when it comes to research versus storytelling is actually putting the two together. Research will provide the skeleton, and the story provides the flesh and blood. And here's the key. Young adults, young children, non-genealogy research interested family members are going to remember the stories, not the facts. Now, one of the challenges that I have particularly had, and that I do hear from other researchers, is okay, I have the family's oral history, I have the stories that we know, I can pull the stories from the records, I can pull that narrative that I'm finding in the records that I'm researching, but it's scattered everywhere. And I don't feel really confident sometimes in being able to find what I need quickly and easily to be able to use it, whether sharing at a family reunion or to go back and pull those incorporate those stories into a research process that I have going. That's where today's sponsor comes in, Storied. So I'm going to turn the camera around. We're going to hop over into Storied platform, and I'm going to show you how I collect stories and set myself up for a successful organization of family stories, and how I can use those to incorporate other people in the family within my research. Okay, so now I've brought you over here to the Storied platform that I use to capture and store and organize my family stories that I use as part of my family history research. I do want to thank Storied once again for being the sponsor of today's video. Now, when it comes to adding stories here, I typically can do it from one of two places. Now, oftentimes I usually start everything from my family tree. So I do have my family tree over here. And as you can see, I have it built out quite a bit here. And so the person that I'm going to actually add a story to here to show you is actually my grandmother, Anita Carr. And so I'm actually going to go into her profile here as well. Now I can actually go straight into her stories, but let me show you what her profile looks like. So I have a picture here, and as I scroll down, we can see I have family and life events here as well. Now I can absolutely research genealogy from here and add more records to her. Primarily what I'm currently doing is using this to capture those stories, because this is a need that I've had in my own research, not only to document the family stories, but so that I can use family stories and incorporate them into my genealogy research. I think that is such an important piece, and that's really what I'm talking about in this video today. So from here, I'm going to go into stories, and I'm going to be able to add a story. What you're going to see here is there's actually already one in here, and this is one that she's actually tagged in. I'll show you that in just a minute. This is a recipe that she gave to my mother, and it's one of our favorite Ritz cracker pie recipes. Yes, you can make a delicious pie with Ritz crackers. Who knew? But anyway, so I have her tagged there. But let's go ahead and add in that story about my grandmother getting her driver's license, because this actually really made this connection between my kids who were teens with their great grandmother who was in her 90s. So this really made a fun story to share with them and help them connect. So we're over here. I clicked on add the story here. And as you can see, I'm going to add a photograph. Now you can add actually up to 100 photographs here, but I'm actually just going to add one today. So I'm just going to click it. I'm going to add an upload. And we're going to add this fun picture of my grandmother with the car. So now then I can just tell the story. Now, guys, I don't want you to get too hung up on telling the story. Just use your own words. Now, there is an AI assist that you can use to actually help tell your story, but sometimes I think the best stories are to tell them how you remember them and in your voice. So I don't want you to get too caught up on, oh, I don't know what to write, so I don't know what story. Nobody will be interested in that story. It doesn't matter. It truly doesn't matter. What you write, the story, the memory that you write, that you want to preserve, that you think that might be interesting to other generations further down the line, could be 100 words. It could be 1,000 words. It just needs to be what it needs to be. I know that sounds a little ambiguous, but I don't want you to get hung up on grammar or to think I'm not a writer. Be honest, guys, I don't consider myself much of a writer, but I know the importance of getting things down, and so I'd rather get it down than not. So I have a title for this one. We're going to call it Grandmom Gets Her Driver's License. I do know the location that this occurred in, and it was South Boston. And I'm not 100% sure on the date. I believe it was the 1930s, mid 1930s. So I added the location of South Boston. I put it the late 1930s based on her marriage date, and I know she was married when she got her driver's license. So I'm just giving an approximate, I don't know exactly. Now, then we can just actually enter the story, or you can paste it here. For sake of time in this video, so that you're not having to watch me type the whole thing, I am going to paste it in here. I pre-wrote it here, so we're going to paste that in here, and I'll show you what that looks like. And here you go. So I can clean it up a little bit if I want to, separate those paragraphs out a little bit, and you can see the story that I've written here about my grandmother who never liked driving, but as an adult, she needed a driver's license. So on that way to take that driver's test, she accidentally sideswiped a fence and sheared off the door handle on the passenger side. The interesting thing on this story is that she had no idea that she actually did it. So when she got to the test center, the examiner tries to get in the car, but there's no door handle. He can't open the door, and actually eventually has to climb in through the driver's side to get in. And the whole time my grandmother is quite befuddled and has no idea what has happened to the door handle on the side of the car. I don't know how you sideswipe a fence without knowing it, but she did. But despite all that, she took that test. She got her driver's license, and all of my life and all up into her adult years when she was driving, she didn't really care to drive. This was not something that she was particularly fond of. She would drive locally. She would drive to the store for groceries, to work, but if it came to leaving town, her small town, someone else was doing the driving, usually my grandfather, maybe a friend if they were going shopping. So once you have your story in here, you're going to click next, and you're going to get some ideas here. So author, I'm actually just going to go ahead and put my name in here, and I can actually tag myself here. So I can either write my name or I can tag myself with that. Who is in that story? We know that my grandmother's in that story. There's nobody else actually in that story, so I don't need to add another. Or perhaps if I wanted to add my grandfather to the story, I could add him to the story and tag him, indicating that he was part of her story as well. I'm going to actually take him out because he's not really part of that story. And then I can add it to any of the categories that I might want to look up. This is totally optional. I kind of like doing it because it does give me, can filter these out later if I'm looking for something that I want to give to the children. I am probably for this one, I'm probably just going to put it under memories. It was told to me by my dad. So I don't really know that I have a great one for that, but that would be certainly an idea to do it as well. And then I hit next. Now, when I get here, guys, you have an option. You can make this public so that anybody can see this, or you can make it private. And this is only to yourself or to anybody in the group that you might choose to create can view that for that. So I actually leave this as public now because I want you can see what that looks like in a bit. And if you ever have questions, you just click on that and it will remind you of who can access something for public and who can do it from private as well. And then you click done. And there you have it. So I can actually click a link to share with people. I can download a QR code. I can share it directly to Facebook and stuff, which I don't typically do. But you have options for sharing this story. So one of the important things that we've been talking about for this video is that not only do we need the research piece and the storytelling piece, we need to use them together. But if you really want to supercharge your research, what I would encourage you would be to add collaboration to that as well. So we need research, we need the storytelling piece, and let's pull in the collaboration piece as well. And I think we're going to have a much fuller family tree. We're going to be better researchers. We're going to find clues or avenues of research we hadn't previously considered, and we're going to have a lot more connections across family lines as well as generations. So to create a group here in Story, to start sharing the stories that you're adding there, you actually just go into this little drop down here, you click groups, and you can see I already have one that is done. But if you wanted to create one, you just click create, you fill in the name, you can give a description, and it will give you a group address, and it will walk you through all the prompts. It's easy to do. So you can see here, I did create one over here for the Talbot family, and this is what it looks like when you click and open up that group. Now, I can continue to add stories here. You can scroll down and see other stories that I have added. You can see I've been focused a lot on recipes recently, and so more stories that we have about the people in our family tree. This is something I am building out and working so that I can collaborate. If I want to add people to my group to collaborate with, I'm just going to come over here to the invite button and click invite. I would personalize this message a little bit more, but this would definitely suffice if that's what you want. Add the names, add the emails. But if you're not real sure what can a member in the group do besides yourself, you have control of it, obviously. Just hover over that, and what it tells you is they can like, they can comment, they can add photos, stories, and view attached things. They can see all the people in the tree. They cannot edit your shared family tree. So that's important to remember. They cannot edit your actual tree. So you don't have to worry about somebody going in there and playing around with your family tree, because I know that gets us all a little nervous when that starts happening. But it's bringing in that collaboration piece when it comes to stories and really getting hold of what was happening, what is known in the family, so that oral history can play an important role in your research. Learn more about how to find your ancestors and family history in the video on your screen now.